Hey Rach, how you going?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining me today. So I just wanted to get you on camera and talk a little bit about your experience. So if you just start off by just a quick um, intro into why you came to me in the first place. What was
hmm
the reasons that you kind of sought me out?
I was feeling constantly tired and I felt like I had huge brain fog as well. Um, I knew there was an issue with my diet because I was eating oats like no tomorrow. I think the amount of carbs I was having was just unreal. And because of that, my days were just so foggy. I was exhausted by 1 p.m. I'd experience a huge crash. And it's often I'd have like a couple, three double espressos per day just to kind of wake me up. Um, I think as well, in a job that I wasn't finding huge fulfillment, I felt like I really needed to almost give back to myself in a way. I think I always just take for granted naturally going towards better choices of food, naturally always exercising. But I knew there was still like deeper things at play here. And like I love learning about that stuff. And I think I just came across you on Instagram and just straight away I'm like, hey, can we catch up? Really interested in kind of getting to know what you offer. And especially the gut thing, like my whole life, I've gotten this sudden random pain after food, and it would be so debilitating. I couldn't breathe. It would hurt to breathe. Um, I wouldn't be able to eat for hours, just a really sharp pain. And I always just thought that was so normal. And I guess that wasn't even the reason why I came to you either. That was kind of just like, oh yeah, I've got this thing that it's just part of me now. But I guess that's also an issue. So there were things specifically gut related that I did need fixing. But to be honest, it was more of just like a mental, I want to just feel better generally throughout my day. So I guess that's why.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that because, you know, for you, you were already a high performer. You were doing, when I looked through, your videos and, your PRs and stuff like that when it came to
Mm.
lifting in the gym, you already look great, you got good muscle tone and you're a really high performer anyway. So, I'm really glad that you touched on you gravitate towards the exercise. So that was never really a focus for us. It was just about tuning up and
Yeah.
really, bringing you to your optimal level, right?
Yeah.
Because we were doing well. We were doing what would normally, be seen as conventionally quite healthy.
Yeah.
But
But
for
yeah.
you and what was going on with you right now with your physiology, because there's nothing wrong with carbs, right? It's just for me, what dictates how many carbs that we should be incorporating is activity level, but also
Mm.
what's going on in the gut, right? And that's going to dictate where I place carbs and where I place fats. So that
Mm.
was one of the immediate things that we did with you was firstly change the quality of carbs, make them more easily digestible, and secondly just look at being smart with our carbs, targeting it around workouts and also just bringing it down a little bit and then increasing the fats. The fats
Mm.
are going to help with hormones as well, and that's another thing, if you wouldn't mind expanding on. So tell us a little bit about the difference in your PMS, because
Mm.
that was a big thing for you as well through the protocol, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I would get insane period pain. I think the first 2 days of every single period, to the point I'd be popping Panadols as often as I could. Um, it was I knew it was coming every single month. There was no getting away from it. There was no month that I didn't have it. And then again, it was just something that I'm like, oh, I'm a girl. It's just something I guess I should put up with. It's normal. And I realized that it's not normal. Like, yeah, we all have it, but it's not something that should be happening. And it didn't take long, did it? It was like 3 or 4 weeks, if that, into the protocol. And I'm like, I haven't had period pain this month, which is insane. And I haven't had it once since then, which is crazy to me. I think there was 1 week as well, we were testing for our 1 rep maxes at the gym, and it was the week before I was getting my period. So it was the week leading up. And I hit every single PB for my bench, my deadlift, my squat, my overhead squat. We did something else as well, my clean. And it was the week that I was due on for my period. And I think I've always had such a narrative that leading up to my period has to be a time where I really pull back. I'm going to be in pain. I'm going to be bloated and feel crap. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I think just being able to function throughout the whole month. Yes, I'm gonna slow down at times, which is, of course, it's inevitable, but that doesn't have to be in the cycle of my period type of thing. That could be when I need a deload from the gym. So that's been incredible. I think that's been super empowering. I think that's one of the best things that I've gotten out of it. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and you touched on that, because people do normalize these things. Women do normalize the PMS, and just it's something that you have to kind of grit your teeth and get through, but it's not. It's a sign of something else going on. Like when we look at endo, for example, endo has massive connections to bacterial overgrowth, right? And that's all connected to the gut. So, it makes sense that even if we don't have endo, what's going on in the gut? And we suspected with you, there was mainly some yeast there, but probably a mix of bacteria as well. So that's one of the things that we went after. And we also gave you a diet that was appropriate to what was going on in your gut, first of all, because that's what I do through the first phase. It's about, okay, well, I suspect this is happening in the gut. So let's make you start feeling better, first of all. So we'll start looking at nutrient deficiencies, filling in those nutrient deficiencies. But then we'll also put you on a diet, which is not going to exacerbate what's going on as well. And it's going to lower inflammation. So when we do that, naturally, your periods are going to be more bearable, and you're going to get through them like you should. And then in the second phase, that's when we go into get into the crux of the problem. So in terms of your gut, so you mentioned that you were having pretty severe gut pain before we started the protocol. How is that now? How would you describe your general gut health since we've been through the protocol?
It's quite funny to say, because it's not something that I even think of or gets my attention anymore, which to me is like, there's no pain, it's just like, I just feel great. There's no bloating. Like, I never have a sore stomach. So it's something that I literally, it's not even in my mind, because it's just, things are just running really fine. But no, I just, I guess, due to the diet and due to the protocol and everything that we did, just feeling a lot lighter, holding less water as well, I think, looking through the check-in pics. But yeah, no pain, no soreness, no bloating. It's quite cool.
That's it, right? And it's so good that it's just not even in your consciousness anymore.
Yeah.
Because especially with the gut-brain axis, right? We've got to remember that, it's our brain, exacerbating what's going on in the gut. So the psychology of it is just as important as the physiology in it, right? So sometimes when people have that chronic gut pain for years and years and years, the treatment's so much harder, because psychologically they're just so anxious about it, and then that anxiety is going to trigger trigger the gut issues. So it's great that, you know, you've detached yourself from that now and you're not even thinking about it, right? Because that makes the treatment so much more effective. And that's one of the reasons why I talk about meditation and I talk about, you know, the hypnosis when it comes to IBS and things like that. And then, yeah, you touched on before about the brain fog and the energy levels and things like that. Have you seen a change in that since the protocol?
Yeah, a huge difference. I no longer get a crash at about 1 or 2 o'clock. I just have sustained energy throughout the day. Waking up, I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day and I'm up. It doesn't take me a coffee to wake up. I even think one day I forgot to have my coffee in the morning. I think it was about week 6. I remember telling you, like, I forgot to have my coffee this morning because normally it's something that I need to feel awake, but I just don't feel the need for it. Like it's just a nice tasting drink for me now, and just being able to wake up fresh and not feel sluggish, yeah, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, and that's huge, right? Because I'm a big fan of coffee. Like I
Yeah.
love coffee, but I love coffee. Obviously, it's, you know, it's an amazing performance enhancer. And but there's also, you know, so many benefits tied into your health and longevity and cognitive health and cardiovascular health. Like there's so much coming out about that, and it is amazing for you. But, you know, we can become too attached to it and we can become
Yeah.
too a lot reliant on it, you know, and it can have you know, negative effects on it if we are overdoing it. And I'm a big fan on quality of coffee as well. So there's all these things. So, you know, and it was, you know, it's so funny that you say that because that mirrors my journey. Like there's videos of me saying that exact same thing. Like I get up at like, you know, 4:30, 5 o'clock now, and I'm just ready to go. Whereas before I did my blood analysis and really went deep with my health, you know, I was same as you. Like if I hadn't had my coffee, I could not function, like could not function. And now it's coffee's so much more effective because, you know, you're at a better level when you're having it. You can be more strategic with it. And, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, when we're not performing well, we're not at an optimal level, the copy is kind of, it just levels us out. Where when we're having it, when we're already in a good optimized state, it really, you know, enhances that. It enhances that brain power and stuff. So yeah, I think that's a really key point because we are too reliant on it for sure.
Yeah, I like how you say be strategic about it rather than having it to wake up. I like that.
Yeah, we can use it, you know, at those times. Like I'll usually have anywhere from 1 to 3 coffees a day, right? And studies show 2 to 3 coffees is the sweet spot for when you're getting kind of the good cognitive returns for it and things like that. And then, you know, that second or third, I'm really strategic on, okay, well, I probably don't need it today, or I probably don't want it today. You know, whereas when I was working, you know, in corporate and I would always have to have my 3 coffees a day.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes 4 coffees a day I would need to get through the day, right? You know, now it's like, yeah, I can be strategic. I'm always going to have the one because I just love coffee.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'll wait about an hour or an hour and a half before I get up to have it. But, you know, and also for me, my genetics and things like that, coffee is really beneficial for me. And I believe that for most people it is, but you know, you've got to dig into your genes and stuff like that to see if you're a fast or a slow metabolizer. But yeah, so that's huge. And you know, like I say, you know, one of the things that I was really relishing working with you for is that you were already in, you know, better than most of the population when it came to your general health, when it came to your physique, when it became to your performance. You're top echelon, right? You know, and so, you know, you touched on it before, and it was like we started working together, and every week you were messaging me and saying, PR,
Yeah.
PR. And I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It was the protein. Like people were
Mm.
like telling my boyfriend at the time, like, Rachel's looking jacked. Like, where has this muscle come from? It's really funny but good. Like people were noticing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm around these people 5 days a week, like like an hour and a half a day. So if you to notice something like that,
Yeah.
it has to be something, you know what I mean? Because you see each other all the time, you don't really notice the changes. So it was nice to get that external feedback as well.
Yeah. And there's no magic there. All we did is we gave you the appropriate amount of protein. And
Yeah.
most people don't know what that is, and they don't know how to do it, and they're confused about it. And really, there's just no secret to it. There's in terms of performance, in terms of, how we synthesize protein in the body. It's just should always be the priority for people, is getting enough protein in the day. And also, we've got to look at the nutrient density of red meat, because that was one of the other things that we did for you as well, wasn't it? We
Yeah.
your red meat consumption, because people are scared of that, right? And I understand why they are. And it's nuanced. We have to look at different things for different people. But for you, it was like, I could tell straight away, just by raising your protein levels and adding in some more red meat, we were going to get a massive performance boost. I didn't know it would be that big.
Yeah.
I didn't know it would be that big, but it was huge. And it was so cool to see that every week. And and then also, you could tell there was, don't get me wrong, you're always pleasant, and you're always good to talk to and stuff like that, but you could see your mood as well.
Oh,
Like
good.
just the excitement to for life, like the zest for life changed, I felt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And there's no doubt. I mean, if like the mental fog aspect side of it was gone, less pain in general with gut and bloating and things, it's bound to happen. And just having that support and just knowing you're there, like it's just, I guess it just makes you feel like, not even with training but with life as well, there's just a lot more purpose. It's how to describe it, but just having like someone kind of backing you in like the health space, it just felt I had a reason for doing things a lot more than if I was just kind of doing things on my own. So thanks for that.
No, it's my pleasure. And here's the thing, I work with so many different types of clients, right? And like I say, you are already performing, and more successful than most people walking on the street, right? So, and I work with people who have real chronic issues, and they're, a lot of the time not willing to make the smallest changes that will make the biggest difference, right? So I love working with people like you who are goal orientated, and they're willing to put in the work and make the changes and trust the process. And there's that saying, you can lead a horse to water, right, but you can't make them drink. And I say this every time, I'm only as good as my client, right? You can have the best coach in the world, but if your client isn't going to be willing to do what you ask them to do, then you're not going to get success. So I am so grateful for you as a client, and because how old are you?
24.
24, to have that discipline at 24, I didn't have it, I can tell.
I've been through it, trust me.
Yeah, well, it's good to realize now, because it took me till about 34 to realize it. But it's but they do say women mature a lot faster than men, and my wife will definitely attest to that, that's for sure. But yeah, so you know, it is massive for a 24-year-old to have that you know, willingness to change when, you know, like most people, you know, in your head you could just be saying these things are normal, because that's what most people would do, is we normalize these things, right? And we get into a mode where we're just surviving, you know,
Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah.
You know, we're on that hamster wheel. We're in
Yeah.
a job we don't really like, but we feel like we have to do it. And yeah, we get a little bit of digestive symptoms, a little bit of bloating, a little bit of brain fog, but we're getting older, so we
Oh, yeah.
do you know what I mean? We do these things, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's insane. Like there was little things, like one of the big things, you know, one of the things that really drove home to me, you know, how we just do not look after people in the conventional medical system. And, you know, you may or may not remember this, but with your thyroid, right? So I'm so glad you decided to go private testing with me, because if you'd have gone to your doctor, they would have literally just looked at your TSH, your
Yeah.
thyroid stimulating hormone, which was in normal levels, right? And they wouldn't done any further testing. But because we went private and because we requested your TSH, your T3, and your T4, we saw that your T3 was coming up a little bit low, right? So you've got to remember with TSH, you know, your TSH won't go out of range sometimes until 10 years after you start getting symptoms of hypothyroidism, right? So, you know, like the fatigue, you know, the brain fog, you know, issue, you know, IBS issues and things like that can all be attributed to you know, a T3, a low
Yeah.
T3, you know, and it wasn't coming up crazy low, it was just a little bit low. So we implemented some stuff, some supplements and dietary changes relating to that as well. And I think that was a massive reason why we started to see those big performance gains, first of
Yeah.
all, and
Yeah.
also, you know, in your cognitive health. Like,
Yeah.
that's huge, because I've seen that before in me as well, with my T3s coming up a little bit low. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to do this, this, and this, and then it's very quick. You know, I found it with me when I made those changes, it was very quick. But a doctor would not have even looked at that. And then even if they did take the T3 and T4, it wouldn't have been, you know, it would have been inconsequential. They would have looked at it and they say, oh no, Rach, you look great. You know, like your level,
Yeah.
there's no issues there, right? And that's the difference, you know. Yes, it's not chronic and it's not, you know, it's not going to be awful, but we're not looking for that. We're looking for optimal health. We're looking for optimal performance, right? So when I see that T3 being a little bit low, I know that we've got something to work on there. There's something tangible that we can work on. And that's what we did. And, you know, and that's why I think we saw some really great results.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. You hit the nail on the head, just saying like we go through life with these pains and these aches and these problems, but we just settle.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we normally normalize these things?
Yeah.
We just, yeah, it's unreal.
We were made to thrive. We were made to thrive. And if you're not thriving, then we need to do something. You need to do something. You need to dig deeper. If you're not getting out of bed, excited about the day, if you're not getting out of bed, you know, with full of energy and wanting to move, you know, if you've got anxiety, you know, then there's something amiss. There's something amiss. Need to dig deeper. So, you know, I'm not going to say it happens overnight. I'm not going to say it's easy, you know, and it's something that you'll probably do. And then sometimes you might go astray, but then we come back to those basics, right? And I think what we've installed and what I always aim to install with my clients is put together the basics that work for you. So I think now you have a good foundation, right? You know, and it's not to say you're not going to go through a couple of weeks where you might drink a little bit more, you might, you know, you might go a little bit out of the diet, but you know what you can always come back to. and you'll start to feel better quickly when you start to
Yeah.
go past those foundations, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You've taught me so much. It wasn't just you kind of giving me something to do without an explanation. Like you've always, like the PDF you gave me, which had everything in it about me and like about like my bloods and everything, and then the other one about all the food, like these apps. Like you really went above and beyond to teach me and to educate me about what was happening, rather than just telling me to do things for the sake of doing things,
Yeah.
which I can assume is quite apparent for some coaches or the industry. It's quite do this because social media says you should. But like the coffee thing, I've heard coffee as demonized on social media for so long, and then it wasn't until you started posting about it, about like it's not actually bad, it's not something you should avoid. It's, yeah, it's cool to actually learn deeper into things rather than just kind of taking things on face value.
Yeah, well, there's always nuance, right? Like here's the thing. Here's the thing that is so apparent, is that extreme self, and that's because we want to feel like we belong to a tribe, right? Like that's why you have the vegan movement and the carnivore movement. The boring truth is the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And there's nuance involved with everything. Can coffee be bad? Yeah, if you get shit coffee and genetically, you're a slow metabolizer and things like that, yeah, it can. But for some people, or most people actually, I think coffee has a great role in a lot of different functions, right? You know, there's so much evidence to back that up, but you have to find out what works for you. And and it goes for diet as well. There's an in between, and likely you're somewhere in between, but there's definitely some therapeutic uses to carnivore for periods of time. Do I think necessarily it's good for people to do it long term? We just don't have the evidence for that for most people. For some people, sure, maybe it will work better for you depending on what's going on with your physiology. But that's why bloods are a game changer for so many people, because we're looking at you, like, and I'm glad you touched on that as well, because one of the things that's so important to me is, above all, is making sure you understand why I'm thinking what I'm thinking and why I need to do what I'm doing, because the why is the most powerful tool that you can ever have for success in anything. If you have the why, for me to just say, okay, this is what I want you to take. I want you to take it for this long. It just doesn't make any sense, and I wouldn't get people's buy-in. And bloods and symptoms, they tell a story, and I want you to understand that story, and I want you to understand how I put that story together.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important for me. So I'm really glad that that's something that you see and something that you found. And yeah, and look, it's a journey.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I didn't need to be told to eat healthier or to eat this or exercise differently, but it's like you said, the why behind it, the education behind it, that's the most important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to, people have to be blood experts and things like that, but I think everyone needs a basic
Yeah.
understanding of nutrition and a basic understanding of how to move their body. And I want to be able to give people that. I don't want to hide anything. I don't want any secrets, There's no magic behind it, Like I will never say I'm an expert in any one condition, right? I
Yeah.
look at the blood and I look at what's in front of me, and then I determine, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in women's hormones
Yeah.
or anything like that. And actually, I think if you are, you're at a detriment, because there's so much else. You've got to look at it. You know, I see myself as a generalist above everything,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, I'll just look at the bloods and I'll have a look what's going on, and then I'll apply that to the whole body. And, you know, okay, so we've got nutrient deficiencies. That explains a lot. You know, if we're low in zinc, if we're low in Bs, if we're low in these things, you know, it doesn't take a genius to work out, well, if we start to fill these gaps in with the nutrients, we're giving the body the fuel to be able to do what it's supposed to do and run how it's supposed to run. And if we've got digestive issues and we're not assimilating those nutrients, then we give the body assistance in doing that while it repairs itself. You know, it's really not rocket science. That, you know, we don't need a specialist in vascular health, we don't need a specialist in hormones, we don't need a specialist in ears, we don't need a specialist in, you know, whatever it is, right? We've compartmentalized everything and reduced everything, you know, so reductionalist, and it's just it's a waste of time, you know.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. I really appreciate you spending the time, because I think it's important that people hear your story, because it's such a great story. And you know, like I say, for you particularly, you were already performing really well, better than most people, but we just took it up that notch.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. Thank you very much.